that Sirach is kind of like the Dear Abby of Old Testament wisdom literature. Has a kind of a moral he has this moral approach to the way one needs to be in relationship with God. And so one of the things that he talks about today is that practice of almsgiving, or making an offering to God. You know, as we begin Lent, one of the things that we're asked to consider are 3 different ways to deepen our relationship with God, and that's through prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Well, Sirach talks about the almsgiving part today. And he does something interesting here, because he says it's not just giving money. It's not just making the official sacrifice in the temple. That there are many other ways to make the offering. There are many other ways to give alms. And he particularly associates almsgiving with acts of charity and justice. So he's saying, you know, not only do we give alms in the offering that we make to the temple, and not only do we make offerings when we make the offering at the temple or in the synagogue, we make that offering, that same offering, when we are attentive to the needs of the poor. We make that same offering when we are attentive to the needs of justice. We are making that same offering when we are aware of having a generous spirit towards others. Now, he goes on to say, I'm not saying don't make your offering in the temple. Thank you, Lord. He's saying, of course, that's part and parcel for the course of things. You know, that's a given. But there's something greater than that. It is the way we make our offering to God, and offer our alms and our assistance to those who are particularly in need. So, and he's saying, when you do come to the official part, where you're making your offering in the temple or making your offering at the synagogue, that you do it with an open heart, with the fundamental belief that all that stuff is going to advance the society around us, advance the people around us. He particularly comes down hard on bribery. We have our own kind of system for that, you know. Priests in the church are very familiar with it, you know. Father, I will give you this money if you will do this. We run into it all the time. I told you about the lady who approached me one time. She wanted to have her daughter's wedding at 4 o'clock on a Saturday evening at a church where I was previously, and I said, I'm sorry, we have a 4 o'clock mass. And she pulled out her checkbook and said, tell me how much you make of that mass and I'll double it, and, you know, just cancel that mass and I'll have the one. Like, no, we can't. We don't do that. That's not the way we operate. But there are people who do operate that way. They think somehow they're going to buy their way in. And Sirach is very clear, you know. Not only do we have to do these offerings and this almsgiving for the sake of others and for charity of others and for a just outcome for deeds in the world, but we also need to do it with a free heart when we do it in the places like in church or synagogue or wherever, where it's an expression of our fundamental belief. You know, I had a priest who said to me once, we really should get away from talking about giving money to the church for building projects or for raising funds for particular projects. We should teach people to give for the sake of giving, because it is a spiritual practice. that we should be engaged in, that we should be giving freely because it's the right thing to do, not because there's a project in front of us. I, of course, rejected that advice because it gets us nowhere, quite honestly, sadly. But that's so often where we operate from. What am I getting for what I'm giving? And Sirach is challenging us to look beyond that. In Mark's Gospel, let me just refresh myself here. I had one point that I wanted to make about Mark's Gospel. Oh, yeah, okay. So, you know, there's something similar here, and that is about, the way we see. You know, Peter says to him, look, we've given up everything, so what do we get out of it? What do we get out of it? And Jesus is saying, well, you know, basically, if you can free yourself from all these concerns, you free yourself up to expand your life. And in expanding your life, you engage many, many more people and many more things in your life. But he also says what you get out of it is you get out of it eternal life and salvation. You also get out of it some suffering and condemnation. That it's not an easy road to walk. There is a reward, there is something that we get out of it, but there's also some difficulties that we experience in the process of it. It's that whole, he's setting us up really for the whole issue about the glory of the cross, that you have to go through the suffering of the crucifixion to experience the glory of the cross. Or the glory of the resurrection.